Nobody's ever gonna read this! This is Marty Adamsmith, afternoon freeform host, in the studio with David Bridwell of the University of New Mexico affiliated Mind Research Institute. How are you doing today, David?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And your background is a PhD in cognitive science from the University of California at Irvine, right?
Yep, cognitive neuroscience.
Cognitive neuroscience. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And in your current research group, are you all cognitive scientists or neuroscientists?
Actually, it's a lot of engineers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it turns out if you want to understand the brain, you have to get people from very diverse backgrounds. So you have computer scientists collaborating with engineers, with cognitive neuroscientists to try to integrate all those different tools to understand it.
So yeah, these are very technically difficult problems to solve. Like what is the tool that you used in your most recent publication on the relationships between alpha oscillations during speech preparation and listener N400 ERP to that produced speech?
Yeah, well, since my background is EEG, which is where you place a sensor on the scalp and
what does that stand for?
Electroencephalography.
Ah, thanks.
Yeah, you just place a sensor on the scalp and you measure synchronous brain activity from the outer parts of the brain, from the cortex. And you can set this up within minutes and just be recording people's brain measures. So it's very surprising and interesting that brain electrical activity actually propagates through the skull and onto the scalp. So most of the analysis of that data is time series analysis because it's just fluctuations of voltage across time.
And so N400, that refers to 400 milliseconds?
Yeah, there are these stereotypical peaks that you see in EEG.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll present some visual thing or some auditory a word, and then if you average across multiple presentations, then there's these stereotypical peaks. So it turns out if you have people listen to words, like if they're listening to language, there's a peak around 400 milliseconds in electrical activity that follows every single word.
Okay.
So the brain is constantly tracking, and we can, with speech, it's like on the order of 160 words per minute.
Mm-hmm.
With reading, it's like 200 words per minute. We're constantly tracking it, and it's just incredible that the brain can process the stimuli the way it does. So we leveraged this stereotypical peak following every word, and the fact that when it's an unexpected word, it's actually a larger peak.
And your example for an unexpected word, like the sentence is, I took my dog for a walk, right? And that's highly expected. And your example of an unexpected sentence was, I took my dog for a drink.
Yeah. So
and what difference did you see in those two conditions of related sentences, with one being much more predictable than the other?
Yeah, so when it's much more unpredictable, like I took my dog for and you expect the word walk to come up, but drink comes up instead, there's a much more negative peak around 400 milliseconds.
And negative means a stronger response, more electrical activity?
Yeah, basically there's a process in the brain that's getting more engaged because something that you didn't expect happened. So there's this sort of cascade of processes that are involved in how do I process this new thing that I didn't expect?
Well, very interesting. Anything else to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, so we actually showed that when somebody is preparing that word, that there's a brain measure of more engagement. So the more effort that they do in terms of coming up with an unexpected word is correlated with a larger brain response within the listener to that prepared word.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the amount of effort between two participants is related to each other, which you would expect for successful communication.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Thanks so much for coming in.
Awesome. Thank you.
So that actually came out really well.
Yeah, I told you, Marty, only one take.